Hey guys, welcome back to Creating Careers Podcast. On today's episode, I had a chance to sit down and talk with Marcus January. Marcus is an incredible director and cinematographer in the Birmingham area. Marcus has an incredible just skill in storytelling, especially dealing with drama or horror. Some of Marcus's films that I've been able to see recently have definitely pushed me to experience new levels of horror. I have truly been terrified by some of his films. I was really excited to have this conversation. I greatly enjoyed just hearing Marcus's story and getting to know him, and I think you will as well. Check it out. All right, Marcus January, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate you just sort of working me in. I understand things are busy, and you seem to be doing a lot, so I appreciate it.
No problem at all. I'm glad to be here, man. This is an honor for me. I've seen a lot of my friends on your podcast before, so it's just I'm invited to the cool kids table, so it's good.
Well, I don't know. I feel like maybe if anything, I would be the waiter at that table. Would probably be about the only way I would get access to it. But definitely, you're one of the cool kids, and I appreciate and value the work you're doing. I was just terrifying myself by watching a few of your shorts before we jumped on here. I don't do well with scary movies. I mean, I enjoy, the thrill, the suspense.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, they freak me out, man. and some of yours successfully freaked me out. So props to you on that, and you owe me an apology.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to sit through that.
No, not that at all. It was scary, genuinely.
Okay, nice. Well, that's good to know.
There's one we'll talk about later on. But I was just watching. Let me see, which one was it? Oh goodness, hang on. I just had it up and then I closed it. Oh, the Inverted.
Oh yeah.
That one freaked me out, man.
Yeah, that was my second short film I'd ever done at that time. It was fun.
Yeah, it's you seem to have done a good bit of horror genre kind of films. Is there any kind of reason why you would why that seems to be one that I see you tackling? I've seen a lot of people tackling that sort of early on. I don't know if you know Max Tatum. Do you know him?
I love Max. Yeah, that's
So Max, I know his definitely tends to be more of that horror genre at times. So is there any reason why you personally jumped into that, or do you think there's any reason why a lot of people jump into that early on?
Partially because I'm crazy, and secondly, it's kind of hard to say. I just found it sort of easier to sort of engage the audience if it was something scary. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, my intrusive thoughts play in my head all day about situations in real life. It's like, oh, what if this happens? What if I write that thing that's in my head here? And on my very first film, I kind of showed it to my cousin. He watched it for the first time after I finished editing it. And it was a short horror film. And I sort of watched him watch it. And to see his reaction when it was time to be a little bit nervous, when it was time to maybe start to cover your eyes, that's what he wanted to do. I'm like, wait, this is working. I want to do this more. So, and also I was really terrified of like writing dialogue at that time. That sort of scared me. So I was like, what type of film can I do that doesn't require much dialogue? You just put a person in a situation that's kind of creepy and I don't have to kind of play into my weakness at that time. So that's just kind of the road that I took there.
Well, it makes sense, especially when I think of movies like Jaws. I think of movies like Halloween.
Yeah.
So much of that, I mean, it was so rough kind of jobs in general for those videos. And the horror genre, or the horror, I guess, theme to those ended up really being emphasized with the use of music and sound. And I see that in your stuff. I see those like sort of low tones that are just
Yeah.
sort of, they kick in at just the right moment to add that extra sense of like something's going on, like this isn't right. So
Well,
I
thank
get
you.
that. Yeah, and the dialogue. I mean, what you're saying. I see it in a lot of horror genres. The dialogue's not as necessary to communicate those fears and that intense emotion of it.
Yeah.
So that's cool. All right.
Well,
Well, I
thank you.
do want to get into some of your story and learn a little
Okay.
bit more about you before we get further into talking about your work.
Okay.
So let's start off. Just tell me, who is Marcus January? Tell me, where'd you grow up? What do you sort of classify yourself as in the creative space?
Well, I'm Marcus January, born and raised in the Birmingham area by the way of Inslee, and mostly like the west side of Birmingham.
Okay. What
Uh,
other parts besides Inslee?
I've been in Inslee, Bessemer, Fairfield. Uh, Now I'm in Vestavia. I've been in
Okay.
Hueytown as well.
Okay.
Just
That's I'm
all
born
over the
and raised
place.
in Hueytown, so that's where
Oh,
I
I've
that's where I
seen.
grew
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I only stayed over there for about a year, but I
What
liked it
part of
though.
Hueytown?
It was very, very close to the raceway on Allison and Bunnet.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's right. There's probably 2 blocks behind the raceway there.
Yeah. Remember the old stadium? Do you know where the
Yes,
stadium is? Yeah. So like
yes.
right across from the stadium, there's some apartments called Autumn Brook Apartments that I used
Okay,
to live in. That was like teenage years, I think,
okay.
early teenage years that I lived there. So
Couple
uh,
years back, just a couple,
yeah, just a little way back when I had hair. So, but yeah, okay. So you grew up in Western Jefferson County, Western Birmingham
hmm
area. Um, how tell me a little bit of like what jobs did you work? Did you work other jobs besides getting in film, or did you just get out
Yeah.
of high school and go straight into film?
No, film is. I've only been a filmmaker for I want to say about 5.5 years. It was not on my radar as something that I could do. Uh, I essentially worked in IT before I decided to quit and go full time filmmaker. Then I worked at a few retail stores like Target and Hibbett Sports and things of that nature. But I went to school for graphic design. But I didn't find myself really. I just sort of picked that major just to. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I know I wanted to do something in the arts world. Graphic design was kind of fun, but ultimately I didn't feel like that's where I wanted to be. So I kind of got into music. Uh, I started a YouTube channel doing some gaming content.
Yeah.
And for the background music on the videos, I decided to make myself. I had been making hip hop beats since I was maybe 9 years old, so I was very familiar with the software. Uh, and then I started to make this cinematic style music, and it was so bad. I had no idea what I was doing, but I had people watching these videos that really enjoyed it. Say, hey, you should sell these. You should try to. I was like, I don't know if they're like pulling my chain here or not. I don't know. But I sent it to my favorite YouTuber at the time, and he listened to it and he watched my content. And he's like, your gameplay is amazing, but your music is terrible. You should consider you should consider using more professional music so your videos could be better.
I really genuinely expected the opposite. I expected you to tell me that he was like, dude, your music's incredible, but your gaming is terrible.
No, it was the opposite. And
Wow.
at that point, that's kind of what I needed to hear because my subscribers were telling me that this was great, but this guy who I kind of look up to is like, hey, you gotta, I think you should buy someone else's music essentially. And I'm too proud for that, you know.
Yeah.
So I started to take it a lot more serious, and I challenged myself to make a album of trailer music. So stuff that you go to the movie theater, you hear the bombastic Marvel background soundtracks. I got at that point, I think I got really good at it. If I never say that about myself, But ultimately, I made over time I made 6 albums, and I've sold so many copies of those albums on Bandcamp. I've done some commercial work, uh, but one thing I never got the opportunity to do was score a film. No one ever hired me to do that. So I was like, hey, I'll just write my own little short film so I can score it, create my own opportunity here.
Yeah.
And I figured out how to shoot with my iPhone 7 on my very first short film. And I have not made a single song since my first short film. I have been stuck here. Like, this has completely hijacked all of my artistic energy.
Yeah.
So now this is sort of turned into a newfound passion, and I can honestly say I have not lost a single ounce of that passion since that first short film. Uh, so that's kind of how I got here in this filmmaker world. It was totally by accident. I've always loved movies. I've never, when I kind of look at those films, I would assume that I need 40, 50 people on set. I need the best actors in the world. I need all of this stuff, until I just sort of like thought about how my journey has been throughout my life. It's kind of built on like trying to adapt to things and being resilient and trying to use what you have to get what you need in that, whatever you're trying to do. And that's ultimately how I kind of built my career up in filmmaking, if you want to call it a career at the moment.
Well, I'm assuming you're making money at it, so I'm
Yeah.
assuming it's a career. Then tell me that. Well, first of all, let me point out the fact that I love the idea of you hearing from somebody that you respected in a related industry at least, and you listen to them over people that were either giving you telling you what you wanted to hear, or even in some cases maybe critiquing you, but their opinions didn't really carry the same weight. So I think so many times, I was just talking about this with somebody the other day, but like so many times we're afraid to put ourselves out there because we're afraid of the criticism we're going to get. Or in some cases, we get inflated egos because we're hearing voices that really aren't well grounded in what is good.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to find through all the noise, find those voices that are worth listening to, and then even more so once you hear from them, to take negative criticism, and rather than just let it defeat you, you sort of took it and said, you know what? Let me hone my skills better, and let me actually make something that I'm proud of, and that would be something that people would celebrate, that I respect.
Yeah. That's essentially the gist of that, man. I just knew that it made me feel like I had nowhere to go. It's almost, am I already on the top here? Like, people are telling me that this is amazing, this is amazing. Like, I didn't feel the need to learn anymore at that point in time. But when I listened to music that I like to hear, it didn't sound anything like it. I'm like, somebody's lying here.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
somebody's not telling me the truth here. But that was very, very necessary, and I still do that today with film. I'm not like if somebody doesn't like something that I've done, it's tell me. That's fine. I would love feedback. I'm not too sensitive about that type of thing. So yeah.
yeah. I've started off sort of my video journey in the realm of education. I was teaching it, and then I ended up, like, currently I work for a school system doing video, and I've always said that the world of education is sort of easy to impress. So it's always hard to judge, like, okay, what are my skills really like based in like a professional video production kind of environment rather than in a school setting. And so I've always tried to push myself to, like, all right, well, let me go work alongside these people, or let me do some freelance kind of stuff where it's not in the educational space, because again, it's hard to judge it based on that. So I can imagine everyone has to sort of fight through that noise a little
Yeah,
bit.
for sure.
So, well, that's cool. Props to you on doing that and listening to it, and then letting it spur you to not be defeated, but rather work harder to hone your craft.
Yeah, man, it definitely lit a fire. I'll say that
Yeah.
it
And then
lit a
you
fire.
threw it all away and said, I'm done with music. I'm going to do, oh, there goes my thumbs up. Yeah, I'm done with music and now I'm going to go focus on video.
You know, it's weird with me. I would love to get back into making music, but I know what my brain is very like addictive when it comes to something artistic. I can only think of like one thing at once. Like if I start back making music, I'll dream about music. I'll
Mm.
always just listen to music for inspiration, and that it'll just sort of like take over the majority of my thought process. So, but I have much more fun with film. This is like the most fun I've had doing anything that required any sort of artistic ability in my entire life. It's so stressful. Like on a shoot, you can be stressed all day, but when the shoot is over, it's like, man, I want to shoot again. You know,
Yeah.
it's weird
Yeah.
that way. I've never had that before with anything else, but and it also pays the bills. So it, I'm 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 here to stay with filmmaking. So yeah.
Nice, nice. Well, let's talk a little bit about your
Oh,
journey as a filmmaker. And you didn't mention the fact that you also worked at Home Depot. I'm
I
assuming that's
did.
a Home
That's
Depot.
I worked at Home Depot for 5 years, and they hired me up as IT. Actually, I don't know how they figured out I was a nerd, but they found me and said, "Hey, I think you'd be good for this position." Turns out I was, but it was just more so it was the wrong time for me because I felt like I could make a transition to be a full time filmmaker because I turned down jobs that would pay me really good money to spend 5 hours in this place and edit a little bit, and I can stay home to be at my desk at work, just kind of checking emails, and I didn't enjoy that. So
Did you have
uh,
to wear the orange apron while doing IT?
I had to wear the orange apron everywhere in the building. It's a staple, man. You know, it's a staple. It's a good
Nice.
staple.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, it's very fitting. So, well, tell me this. Talk to me about your journey in videography or filmmaking specifically. And I need to. I always try to respect the differentiation between filmmaking and videography because
Hmm.
I've learned through talking with people and them sharing with me that they see a difference. I try to respect that difference. So I understand you do more of the cinematography and filmmaking. Did you do more of the videography, more of event coverage kind of stuff at some point? Maybe like solo shooting, event coverage. But talk me through that journey. What did it start off as for you, and then how did it sort of grow to be what it is now for you?
Ooh, I kind of covered that a little bit, just kind of uh, the only way that I would pick up a camera is for it was for a narrative thing. I had no intentions on like starting a business or anything of that nature. It's just I wanted to do something recreationally, just for fun. And it wasn't until I met my good friend Conrad Martin, who would say, "Hey, I'd like to bring you on a few gigs of mine if you want to tag along, and you can be my second AC. I'm sorry, my first AC, and I can kind of show you the ropes and start making some money because he's like, you clearly have the ability to do the stuff that I do. So that's kind of like my introduction in that transition of sort of kind of getting in the corporate world and actually making money professionally as a videographer, cinematographer, and I use that word differently depending on who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
If someone needs some work and I can tell that this is going to be like, oh, this person needs me to do event coverage, or this person needs me to do a wedding or something, I'll say, yeah, I'm a videographer. I'll say that just to kind of so I don't have to answer the question of like, what's the difference between the two? It's just
Right.
like I'm a videographer here.
You are whatever they need at that moment.
Exactly.
I get that.
But yeah, that transition to kind of doing event coverage just came after I decided to go full time film, like full time videographer, cinematographer, filmmaker.
Was
That's
that
when I started
more?
to.
I'm sorry. Was that more out of necessity, or was that something that you also just really enjoyed and had a passion for?
I would say that was more so necessity. I'm not a big. I don't really care to shoot events like that, weddings, corporate events, and things of that nature. I'll do them, but I wouldn't say that that's something I just get really excited about
Right.
to shoot. I'd much rather shoot, docs, narrative stuff, commercials, things of that nature. But events, I would say, are probably like on the bottom of that on the bottom of that list.
Yeah.
Um, and I've done very little things like real estate. Um, I feel like I don't really have like the camera system to do real estate. Usually those cameras are a lot smaller, a little bit more nimble. I don't think I don't think I've geared up for anything like that. But most of the time I'm shooting like corporate branded content, documentaries, company documentaries, and narrative and music videos. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's me on that.
Well, tell me this with the with documentaries. Have
Mhm.
you been able, or like I guess most of those you're saying are tied to like maybe a branch of your corporate work, or have you done documentaries that are sort of standalone?
I've done a mixture of both. Uh, the corporate side. So my part time job, I work for it's the longest name ever. It's the Alabama African American Civil Rights Heritage Sites Consortium, and I am
Okay.
their staff videographer. And my primary thing as the videographer, is to sort of find those stories that are sort of untold within the civil rights movement and just sort of spread light on it. So I've shot a few documentaries under their umbrella to kind of help tell stories in a very powerful way,
Yeah.
if that's the right word there I'm looking for. Uh, and I've also shot a few standalones for some friends, for like music artists, just kind of want to tell their story. Uh, at a certain point in time, I started shooting documentaries for friends just as a way to get better at them. I didn't understand them, and I can't say that I understand them now, because sometimes documentaries just sort of take shape once you get closer to what I would consider the end of the process. Then you start to see what the story is sometimes, because I'm not the best planner when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Well, documentaries seem like it would be one of those like you just got to capture what you can capture when you can
yeah,
capture it. You know, there's very little planning and organizing I feel like you can really do on the front end,
yeah,
at least much. And I'm speaking as somebody that more as an observer than somebody that's actually gotten out there and done it. My closest thing to a documentary would have been more of like a day in the life of and following around six different people,
yeah.
and then compiling that into one video, which was mad respect for people that do that. I don't know why that thing keeps popping up.
Hey, it's
I need to
fine,
turn that
man.
thing
It's fine.
off. I don't know. Occasionally I get a thumbs down that pops up and I'm like, I didn't even do that. So, but well, tell me this, cuz you mentioned that you're working part-time for that company, and no offense to that company, the name is long and I would butcher it if I even tried it. So,
Yeah.
but how's that worked for you? Has that been, because I know a lot of people, and myself included, I work a full time job and then do freelance on the side, and that's tough. I mean, that's a grind most of the time to do that kind of thing. How's that been being able to have like a part time job? Is it really part time? Does it end up becoming full time? At least the hours you put in, or has that really worked to allow you to have more of a flexible schedule to where you can really get out and do the projects that you want to do and grow that opportunity for you?
Yeah, that's I feel like if they have me for 20 hours a week,
Right?
sometimes we'll push that a little bit
Yeah.
in some cases. But ultimately I agreed to do this job because, one, it felt very important to me to do, to be able to tell those stories. Uh, but ultimately, it serves as somewhat of a security blanket for the slower months. Being in the freelance world, sometimes it gets a little bit scary, and it's really nice to one still be able to do video work without having to like, oh, maybe I should go get like a part-time job, like a regular 9 to 5 or whatever the case may be. I kind of got depressed when I thought about that. I'm like, I don't want to go back to clocking in. I don't want to do that anymore. But ultimately, those two reasons are the main reasons that I went for. Just kind of having that security of some steady income each month, but also the importance of the work to me. Uh, just that culmination is good. It's pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah. I totally get that. And I also I think it's tough for a lot of people that balance of, you know, wanting to have the freedom and the opportunities that freelance sort of brings it, but then also that security of having like a regular income and even
Yeah,
benefits that come along with a full time position at least. So
yeah.
yeah, it's always that's always the tension I think in the creative industry in general. All right, I do want to talk a little bit
Oh,
about music. So I
okay.
think this is one of your albums, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So and I did notice like so many of your short films, like the sound is really like significant in the
Oh,
video themselves because of the fact that I think it does dictate so much of the emotion and the
yeah.
suspense that your viewers are intended to feel at that time. How important is music, and what's your process in sort of figuring out not just music but sound in general in your films?
Oh, that's a big question. Uh,
Sorry, like 3 hours
no,
later.
no, no, it's fine. I feel like sound is more important than a pretty picture. Honestly, it's more important than good lighting. Uh, it's
There's some people that are like kicking right now. They're like, no, no, I'm just kidding. No.
it's. I feel like it's hard to forgive like really bad sound versus a bad camera or whatever the case may be.
Yeah,
So it's super important. But it's really cool that you say that the films sound good because that's
they
not something
do.
that I hear often, to be completely honest. Um, but I would much rather listen to like film soundtracks over any music with lyrics. I would just ride in the car and listen to uh I don't know, just soundtracks from like some of my favorite films. So when I'm in the process of writing a film, I've already kind of know what type of music and feel is going to be involved in this because I'm thinking about this way ahead of time. Um, but sound is super duper important, especially in horror films, because sometimes a lack of sound is probably better than actual sound.
I
Uh,
get that. Yeah,
so
no, no,
it's
definitely.
yeah, for sure. So it's I don't. I wish I could say that I have like a real process to how I do things like that, but it's really just sort of trying to be intentional about certain things and understanding, trying to put yourself in the shoes of the audience member watching for the first time. Like how how are you trying to dictate that feeling? Whether it's a comedy, whether it's a drama, horror, all of that just sort of falls in that same rule for me specifically. Um, and then I just try to build from there and pretend like I know what I'm doing. And
That's hey, that's what we're all doing, right?
exactly.
Tell me this: have you found like a certain sound, especially in maybe horror or suspense, that is like your go-to, or that your at least that like tone seems to be consistent for you to pull in and say, oh yeah, that just really builds the suspense, or that builds sort of that horror to it.
Uh, I don't think I have a sort of go-to in that regard. Uh, Pretty prominent in a lot of my horror films. There will be like these the sound effect called risers. You know, the kind that
Mm-hmm.
just completely just keep going up and up and up. I feel like those are in almost every one of my films. But I will say I've sort of evolved from that a little bit. I have been working on uh, 4 short films over the last 2 months. for Halloween, just kind of
Yeah.
gearing up for Halloween, and I wanted to do an event at Sidewalk playing some of these films. But the poster that you're seeing there,
Yeah. Yeah.
the film
The
called The
Uninvited.
Uninvited.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably my quietest horror film that I've done. It's and there's a lot of there's just a lack of sound in there, like, a lack of sound effects. It's just more so sitting in the moment with these characters as the story progresses. Uh, so I'm glad I'm not using my old way of doing things in this one because it feels truly unique uh, versus all of my other projects. So I, yeah, I don't think I have a process.
Well,
I really don't.
in that case, what kind of, because I imagine if you've got people, I mean, I don't know where the setting of this is, but
Hmm.
let's assume the setting is around a campfire or
Hmm.
if it's in a car, like those kind of settings, are you still including sounds,
Oh, of
or
course.
are you just saying like there's like this like almost deafening, even deafening, usually you hear almost this high pitch kind of
Yeah,
tone. You know, it's like everything has some type of sound. What's your
I see what you're
what
saying.
kind of, how are you doing even in those cases? How are what's dictating the sounds that you're putting in there? And is there any kind of like special sauce, so to speak, that you like to add in, or maybe that you found with this video that you're like, this has been something that really helped me in this film?
I guess when I say sound, I'm thinking more so sound effects in the way of uh,
Like
those
drone,
those
kind of like those
drones and
long, yeah, low
risers,
drones, yeah,
and in some moments I kind of like I just have like the natural sound of what's there on set, or I'll just kind of recreate it in post
right.
instead of I would, if you need some nighttime ambience, I'll find some nighttime ambience and footsteps, floor creaking, and things of that nature. Um, I guess I should consider that sound.
And I
But
think we are. That's what I guess I was getting into. It was
yeah.
I was not, originally I was asking about the drones and the
Mm.
risers and things like that. But then when you mentioned this uninvited, that's what I was wondering, like, what are those sounds that you're putting in there instead?
Yeah.
Or are you capturing them on site, or is it something that you're pulling from sort of a sound bank that you pull from, or
Uh,
maybe a mixture of both?
this film is honestly mostly from a sound bank online, and I'm just sort of just testing out different ones to see what works. Just trying to recreate realism in general, because that like I said, that sound is just so important. That no matter how small the sound effect that you're using, it makes a huge difference for like that feeling of immersion that you get. Uh, but I didn't have the crew to actually record the sound for me on the day of, outside of like some live packs. So
Yeah.
a lot of the sound for these last few films have been just done in post. And I think they're pretty good. I think they sound pretty good.
Do you feel like your history of composing helps you even in those moments of being able to balance that sound and
Yes.
really add to the atmosphere of it?
Yes, I definitely think it has. I don't know what separates me from anyone, to be completely honest, because I've sort of taken some of those same processes from the composer side and just kind of brought them in, and even I still even use some of the same sound effects that I have from when I made that type of music on the films. So I do think it has given me a little bit of a boost in that category. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
My anytime I do like sound effects whenever I'm trying to match what you're seeing on film, it feels so disconnected. Like I'm so bad at it. And I don't know, like part of it is I'm so impatient whenever I'm searching for sounds. I'm like footsteps, found it, download it. All right, that's good enough.
Exactly.
But that is not the right footsteps for what should be. You know, it's like footsteps on rock and they're walking on concrete. You know, it's
Yeah,
like it's that kind of stuff.
yeah.
But is there a trick, or maybe is it just the trick of patience to really
It's
dig through and find what really works?
definitely patience for sure. Because if it's, even if you do find the right footstep, how many times does that character's foot actually hit the ground in that scene? And you got to get your timing right and your levels. Are they walking further away from the camera? Do you want to turn those steps down some,
Yeah.
gradually as he or she goes away from the camera or towards the camera? So it's a game of patience, honestly.
I'm
Definitely.
doomed. I'm doomed. I lose all my patience in the edit, like just editing the visuals. By the time you get to the sound, I'm like I'm ready to get it over with most of the time. Unfortunately, I'll work on it though. All right, so let's talk through some of your work. I want to talk, especially some of your more recent work that you've been doing, and I say that I'm going off of what you're sharing on social to
Yeah.
some degree. But this image on the right,
Hmm.
that one, the guy with sort of the orange vest on, that looks like a music video that you've been doing, and you even said earlier that you've been doing some music videos. How like how often are you doing music videos, and is there something that you've done that you're like super proud of right now, that you're like, man, this is one that and maybe it's this image.
Definitely that image there.
Okay, what's I'm trying to remember the lady's
Her
name.
name is Journey.
Journey, that's
Her
it.
name is
Yes, let me
Journey. That was
pull let
her
me
very first music video. And I was super honored that she came to me for her first music video. Uh, but
I'm
I
trying
absolutely love the way that came out. It's
I
definitely
had
my
her
best work
YouTube
there.
channel pulled up the other day, and now I don't have it pulled up. Let me see if
Uh
I can
oh.
find that real quick.
Yeah, man.
Because I want to look at this. I'm not finding it anywhere right now. Is she linked in your Instagram?
I'm not 100% sure. Let me,
Okay. I'm gonna search this up. It's not just Journey. She's like,
it's
I
Journey
am
the
Journey.
artist.
Journey the
Journey the
artist, that's it.
artist.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Ooh, that did not pull up at all. not not
On
on
Instagram. It
not well,
might
I
be
was searching on YouTube, so
it's
let me
Journey
do
with
it.
an I instead of a Y.
That's it. That's what I
Journey
was messing up.
the artist.
Oh, you did have her linked. I just didn't think that was the link. So, okay, let me pull this up.
Okay.
Just while we're talking through it. So, so talk through what this actually was a little bit. I do love the when we get to those later scenes where it's that rich kind of. First of all, the color comes in. Second of all, that bar scene just has so much atmosphere to
It
it, and the
does.
colors are beautiful. I mean, obviously, throw in this vintage kind of vibe to it. But talk through a little bit of this video and sort of what you were tasked with a little bit.
Essentially, this entire video was supposed to be completely black and white for the entire thing. Uh, we only switched to color because it looked incredible on camera, on set. She was like, can we find some way to sort of transition out of black and white for this? I was like, we
That
can do whatever we want to do. We're not following rules right here.
that would
um,
be painful, man. When the colors look so rich, to then just say we're going to stick with black and white. I mean, tones matter,
for sure.
and that difference between the blacks and the grays and the
Hmm.
whites, like all in between, is really great. But something about, especially the colors y'all hit in that bar scene,
Yeah,
they're really rich colors.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
What were you shooting
Ultimately,
this with?
the FX6.
Nice.
FX6. That's my new workhorse camera. It's my first Sony camera, and I absolutely love it. It's
Yeah.
great.
This was my
Nice.
wedding, my not my wedding, my birthday gift from my wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this was,
Nice.
I'm telling you, she treated me well. My FX3, but I haven't quite grown up yet to the FX6.
Got
But
you.
yeah, but this is the part where it transitions. Those
Hmm.
warmth, man. I totally get why she would want to include the colors in this at this point.
Yeah, if she didn't say anything, I was going to push for it. Honestly, I'm like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of the best things I've ever shot. To be completely honest, yeah, it's I was a 1.5 man crew on this one. I had a
Yeah.
friend that was just kind of bouncing in and out to help me out with some lighting here and there. That was a big part of my thinking with the shooting in black and white, because you don't have to be super intentional about temperature of lighting and things of that nature. You can sort of get away with not doing a whole lot when it comes to lighting in a black and white image. Um, and the bar that we use here is the marble ring. It's a really nice bar. It already has a really good look to it. So most of these shots are just kind of a 1 to 2 light setup, and very simple. We shot this whole scene in about 2 hours. Just kind of shift the key light here, put a backlight here, hit record, and we knocked it out, man. We knocked it out.
Definitely there's like the shadows are almost accentuated
Hmm.
in this. How risky is it at times to work in such dark shadows in multiple ways? I mean, wearing dark clothes. You do have darker skin tone in general in this video. How difficult is that to work with really dark shadows, or is it one of those things? I mean, your background in working in horror probably helps. You know how you can push those shadows and those highlights to really retain the clarity of the image still. But I don't know. To me, it seems like you do a really good job, but at the same time, so much information is sort of
It's
lost in
it's
those
pretty
shadows.
lost. Yeah.
Yeah. So how risky was that for you, and ultimately, like, how do you make sure that you still retain sort of the visuals that you want to?
Ultimately, I wouldn't say my trick is, but the thing that I try to do in most shoots is, I on set for that one specifically, it was much brighter than it is exposed on the video. I like to pull down things
Right.
in post, and that kind of retains, and I can sort of do what I would like to do with the look. Um, but we shot that scene at about 1 p.m. I did not have any. I was told that there was blackout curtains in there, but they had no blackout curtains. So I had to like crush a lot of the shadow information down to make it feel a little bit more like a nighttime sort of shoot there. So that was my thinking in that shoot specifically. I had to kill a lot of that information there in post.
Do you find those, like, that fall off? And I don't know, maybe this is something that the FX6 handles better, but do you find that fall off really suffers at times by you having to bring down the exposure that much, that transition from the highlight to the shadow?
I just think it depends on the process of how you're going to pull them down.
Okay.
I think on this one, I actually don't know what I may have just. Do you use DaVinci?
I do.
I
Yeah.
think I just pull down the gamma slider a bit, and pull down the lift a little bit gradually, and it didn't seem too harsh in the
Okay.
transition from light to dark. But I think it's just about the way that you expose it. If I'm not mistaken, I'm no expert when it comes to that type of thing. I'm I
Hey,
I'm
I'm
like
I'm just eager to learn, man. That's it.
I don't use false color. I'm just if it looks good on the screen, I'm gonna hit record. That's just that's how I am.
Yeah.
I don't really look at the light meters and things of that nature. I'm not encouraging anyone not to do that. But the way that I
Right.
learned when I first started is just me teaching myself what I like to see on the screen. And sometimes I allow myself not to feel eager to learn a specific thing. Uh, the reason why I say that is because I'll go back to music. When I first started making this cinematic music, I didn't know what scales were on a piano. I didn't know how to properly play a piano and understand it, because before then the ideas came out so fast in my brain. Seeing this keyboard, it's so many keys on it, it felt like infinite possibilities. But once I learned scales, I'm like, wait, this note only goes here, this fits here. So it's like I'm putting myself in a box that I'm now trying to break out of. So I try not to go too technical with things like that, just so I don't box myself into a specific thing. Or I could spend much more time on set trying to like get the levels up on this side to do whatever, to make sure my IRE and this is
Right.
exposed correct. I don't. I just look at the monitor and I hit record and that's it.
Well,
And that
in
could be,
in
and I wouldn't say that's the right way to do anything. That's just how I've always done. But maybe I should sort of get into that a little bit though.
no, no. Well, I would say this: you're working in those sort of darker scenes. I mean, what I've seen from you, it works. I mean,
Thank you.
whether you're shooting at 1 p.m. or whether you're shooting at 1 a.m., it seems like you're able to deliver the look that you're going for at
Yeah.
least. And I think overall it turns out really well. I
Yeah.
do want to talk a little bit of, and this is probably, I don't know how you feel about your own content
Okay.
whenever you're sitting in front of the camera. I know how I feel about my own content, so prepare yourself for that.
Oh God.
but
Oh
but I
God.
do want to talk about
Oh God.
your YouTube videos. I've seen a few of these that you've put out where you go through and you break down sort of scenes that you lit. First of all, this is another one of those videos that just creeped me out. Like it's really sort of suspenseful. And then the visuals of it scare me. But I do think overall, like I love the way you break this down. I love the use of light in these other rooms that are down the hall. I love the use of the little MC that she's holding there on her phone that you can almost, I mean, just barely see only after you point it out. I loved the breakdown of this. I thought it was really well done, and
Thank you.
the scene looks great. Again, that's creepy, and that's even worse. And then that, yeah. So, sorry, I hope not. I didn't spoil too much for people, did I? There, I guess I did
No.
probably, but
No, man.
but tell me a little bit of what's your rationale behind doing these breakdowns, and really just doing these setups in general, even.
Really, I'm just trying to like get comfortable with being in front of the camera. This is something I've always wanted to do, although I've only did about 3 of these videos. It's something I've if at least wanted to give it a shot. To be completely honest, uh, but I do plan to return to do more of these. My plan is to buy like a GoPro and actually take people on set with me. That way, I don't
Yeah.
have to worry about filming BTS for something that I'm setting up. It'll just already be recorded, and I can just kind of talk people through my process. Uh,
Yeah.
so that, yeah, I just wanted to give myself a shot at just trying this out, and it was actually pretty fun. I didn't hate it, so that was good. And
I think it.
I also
Go
don't
ahead.
really. I have a lot of questions from other filmmakers about how I do lighting in general, and this is just me trying to build up to something that can be a long term thing for me to do, because I do want to start trying to educate people on my process of doing film. So this was kind of a warm up for me to try out, because I
Yeah.
don't
Well,
really own any, like, not any, but I don't own a lot of like fancy lighting. I use the cheap stuff sometimes, and just trying to show people like how to use what they have to make it happen. But yeah, that's the reason why I started that, for sure.
well, I like it. I enjoyed watching it, and really, I thought that scene in general was really well done.
Thank you.
And you talk about using cheap lights. I mean, granted, I think in general lighting has gotten significantly cheaper than it once was,
Yeah.
but I mean, I see these same lights being used on higher end productions as well as low end productions. So I think that's what's really neat now. The industry in general, like we're all living in sort of the golden age of film, and I say golden age. Maybe it's the copper age of film because everything has gotten so much more affordable. I mean, from cinema cameras that you can literally fit in your pocket in some
Yeah.
cases, to the lighting kind of stuff. That's, first of all, we're not dealing with high temperatures anymore of lights. And these lights are really small but yet really powerful.
Yeah,
So
for
it's a
sure.
neat time to be doing film, and I think learning how to utilize these new tools, these affordable tools, in creative ways. That's sort of what we're seeing so much on YouTube now.
That's true. It's crazy. I've gotten a lot of compliments on some of my earlier work for lighting, and I didn't own a light until I don't know, maybe a year and a half, 2 years after I started filmmaking. Uh,
What were you using?
Windows, lamps in the house, just kind of like trying to block my scene to where my character lands in the spot that gives them the best available light at the time. Uh, my good friend Paul Martin, who I mentioned earlier, he gave me this 120-watt light. It was kind of like the equivalent of Aperture 120D.
Yeah.
He just gifted it to me for my birthday, but I didn't know what to do with it. I'm like, I don't know how to implement this in my movie. I don't know what to do with this right now. I just got so used to sort of using what was available and just trying to make the best of it at that time. And that was another reason why I started the YouTube channel as well, because I was eventually going to get to a point where I was wanted to explain to people how you can light without lights in the traditional sense of filmmaking, like big fixtures, diffusion. But now this is like it's kind of hard for me to show you here. This is like a $70 light that I found on eBay, and I just put some muslin across it to make it soft, and that's the type of stuff that I do.
Hey, it works, man. It
It
works.
works.
My very first experience with 3-point lighting, I was teaching my high school students at the time. I was a marketing teacher, and I had a lamp that I'd gotten from my house without a shade on it. I had let's see, I had a shop light, like the aluminum can kind of shop lights that had a clamp on it, and I think I had a floor lamp, like something else that I had gotten from my house that had like a flexible neck on it or something. And I had students literally holding these things around another student sitting on a stool in the middle, and we were working on 3-point lighting. And I'm
Nice.
like, you know what? I think the principle still applies. And probably even more than that, I think we could and did get really good look
Yeah,
out of those lights, you know?
for sure.
It's a matter of learning how to work with what you got. It's not about wishing for what you don't have.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Even though I'm like the guy who's like trying to upgrade cameras every year at least, trying to upgrade cameras. I'm just a camera nerd though, but I don't feel like I need any like the camera that I have it's incredible. I don't
Yeah.
feel the need to go out and get anything, but I'm just such a nerd that I feel like I want it. That's how I
I get it. I get it. I'm that way a little bit with lighting too. I've got a light right here. I've got another light over here. I've got a
Nice.
box with probably 3 or 4 lights in it right here behind me. I'm a little bit of a gearhead, so
Yeah.
and my wife wishes I wasn't. Our
Same.
bank account wishes I wasn't. So.
Same. Same.
I do want to talk about another short film of yours, one that
Okay.
I thought was really. This gets more into probably the story that you wrote. First of all, I want the nice guy to do the right thing. Okay, can I just get like these writers, these directors? Can we just get the nice guy to do the right thing? All right. Well, I don't want to spoil it too much, but that's what I hope would happen at some point. But talk about this film. What was sort of the inspiration? And how political are you? No, I'm just kidding. But no, seriously, what was the inspiration behind it? What was sort of the drive behind doing this? And then also tell me a little bit of maybe some of the challenges that you ran into in this one.
All right, I'll show you the drive right now. 1 second. The drive, the drive was this camera.
Nice.
I had just bought the Ursa G2,
Yeah.
and I wanted to shoot something. I wrote this script in about 4.5, 5 hours one night, just so I can shoot with this camera. Um, I wish I can say this was like a passion project. It was just me eager to get out there and shoot something that wasn't like a corporate thing or, just like some B-roll video. I want to shoot something really cool with this film. I mean, with this camera. And I'm not a political guy. Uh, I feel like that's kind of in the dialogue. I don't really have them talk about politics a lot. It's just more
Right.
like espionage or whatever the case may be. But I also really love the show House of Cards, and
Oh man.
I also
Yeah.
wanted to capture something that kind of felt like that.
That'll make you lose hope in humanity.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed the storyline in general until
Thank you.
the end. Until the end,
Yeah,
I didn't enjoy the ending, but that's okay. I've lost a little bit more hope. That's okay.
got you, got you.
But tell me this: what's the secret to getting people like? Because you can't shoot something like this by yourself. This
Yeah.
isn't just a YouTube video. Like, how do you get people involved? And maybe you've got a budget for this, maybe not. So how do you get people involved, especially when you're working with a very tight to no budget whatsoever, possibly?
I find that people in Birmingham are just sort of eager to just get out there, and if it's something for fun, I feel like they're just willing to get out there and just have fun with you. I only had one crew person on this one. It was my good friend Deshaun Motley. Uh, we sort of just rode the ship on this one, and we I feel like we nerd out about stuff a lot, so we were just super giddy on every single scene of this film. But a lot of these didn't require much in the way of any sort of augmented lighting. Um, this porch scene, all natural light. Uh, it's my process of doing things. It doesn't take long. I would say that much.
Yeah.
It's like it's a very I do things very in a very simple way. I would say. Um, but as far as the actors in Birmingham, I feel like they just they want to come out and play too. So
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I don't think it takes a lot for people to just be interested to come out and just help or just be on camera, add something to their reel or whatever the case may be. Uh, but yeah, people in Birmingham are cool. They're cool.
Well, I know this guy shows up in another one of your short films. I
Yeah.
think it's Ava.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 He
Uh,
was the first sort of trained actor that I reached out to after I wrote Ava. That was the first time that I actually called people like, "Hey, I would love for you to take this role." Before that, it was just more so like using a good friend of mine. He's the lead in Inverted. He had never acted before. It's like we just wanted to have fun with it. But Corey Winston, he just became like almost like a brother to me. So you'll continue to see him. He's in the Uninvited coming up as well. We
yeah.
just and he's always like calling like, "Hey, what do you have coming up? Do you have any scripts or whatever the case may be?" So he just wants to get out there and have fun. That's all.
Well, he does a really great job in this.
Yeah.
He really does. I would say similar in Ava, but I this one I think he hit the mark even more so on.
Yeah.
Now we do have to say that there is a past guest of the Creating Creators podcast that shows up on here later on. So let me see if I can get to that part real quick. Let me see. Okay, right here. We've got
Jordan.
yes, Jordan. What I don't even know how to say Jordan's last name. Do you know how to say it?
I think it's Hudex.
Hudes?
Hudex. I think it's.
Hudex?
I think so. Don't kill me,
Okay.
Jordan. If you see
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
don't kill
Jordan
me.
Hugh. Jordan. There he is. He just walked in. Yeah, he's miking up the senator right at
Yeah.
this point. Yeah, I heard the voice and I saw him walk by in that very first part, and I was like, wait a minute, was that Jordan? And then
Yeah.
and I rewound it a couple of times to watch it again, and then if I would have just played it through, you see him more clearly later or in that next shot. But yeah, it was cool to see Jordan. Now Jordan, I understand, was doing sound
Yeah.
on this.
Yeah. He did sound
Nice.
on this scene specifically because I definitely needed someone to actually help out on this one, just because on that specific scene in the house in the very end of the film, that was the most lighting I had did on that film in general. So I was definitely not going to be able to like boom up or just kind of sit off to the side while the camera rolls or anything like that. And I have people offer to help me on set all the time. It's more so I think I just have like this little imposter syndrome here and there. It's like, do I really want to have these people out on my set and I don't feel like I really know what I'm doing, or like is my
You're afraid
process
they're going to
weird?
see behind the curtain or something?
Yeah, it's like I don't know if like my process of doing things on set is like different or the wrong way. It's like I'll just stick with using a friend of mine here and there, you know. But I have a lot of people just they just want to come out and just kind of be on set, and I'm the same way. I just love to be on set with people, so I just find that people are just yeah they're willing to come out and help for sure.
Yeah.
And Jordan's
Well,
one of those guys.
well, this film I really did enjoy. I thought it was well, hello. I'm trying to get to this. Okay, I really did enjoy. I thought it was a well done. I think the characters, especially later on, the characters really connected with me in some way. Like
Thank you.
the sort of villain of it, if you even want to call him
Uh-huh.
that. Like even that I just was watching, not showing everybody, but the slow clap. It just. I don't know. I felt like they really connected in that part.
Yeah,
So
Tim Casper is he's amazing. That's another one of those people that as more and more my journey sort of continues, he'll be another one of those faces that's just he's there a lot.
and these are people that you're saying that are trained actors in the Birmingham area already.
Yes.
Nice,
Yes.
nice. All
Definitely
right, so
trained.
there's another one that I want to talk about
Okay.
that probably freaked me out more so than any of your films.
That's
First of
interesting.
all, I'm a dad of 4 kids.
Okay.
Okay. Anything involving kids gets me. I mean, I watched Field of Dreams not too long
Hmm.
ago, and I cried when they were like throwing baseball. You know, it's like I've seen this movie since I was a kid, dozens and dozens of times probably, and yet here I am, like as a 40-year-old man, crying because the father and son are throwing ball.
Yeah.
All right, so I've already got a soft spot whenever it's dealing with kids, and then you put in like this horror, creepy
Yeah.
awfulness, man. I mean, it really this one freaked me out. And I won't spoil it. I don't want to show the very end. But man, it this one was well done for the horror genre that it is.
Yeah.
It was well done. Props on this one.
I
What was
appreciate
your
that.
was there any kind of special inspiration? I mean, did you just like hate your childhood or something?
No, not at all. I had a pretty fun childhood. Just played sports all the time. um,
You're just dark, man. You're
nah,
dark.
man. I do love not love. I do really like watching like horror thriller films. So I kind of like want to make what I watch. Essentially.
Yeah.
If I won't watch it, I don't really want to make it really. So yeah, that's just kind of the my thing, I guess. This is actually the house in Hueytown that I was staying at. I had just moved in. That's why everything
Mm.
looks so empty in
Yeah.
this house. So I got in this house like I want to shoot something. I want to write something, and this is what I came up with. Just another simple story about an imaginary friend, and it it worked.
All right, I'm gonna show the scene. I'm gonna let it get to the scene that you have like the thumbnail for.
That's fine.
But again, I won't let it get to the end. But even that scene where that you use for the thumbnail, man, that's creepy.
It
I
was
mean,
pretty
anything
creepy.
involving kids, man, it's like Sixth Sense, all of that.
Yeah, I
Uh,
totally agree.
yeah,
I
that got me,
totally
man.
agree.
Oh, that right there. Okay, all right. I
Yeah.
won't go. I won't go further than that. Whew. Okay, all right. But those of you that are watching, you need to go check this out and watch it all the way to the end. You can see it. It only has less than a minute left on
Yeah,
it
it's very, very
to
short.
see
Very,
it.
very short.
It is short, but it's good. It's good. So props to you on that, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So creepy. Don't like it at all, but I love it. Okay, all right. So tell me this: what's one of the biggest challenges that you face? You think as a filmmaker, and this could be something that you think maybe you have faced or that you are facing, something that maybe everybody faces or maybe just unique to you.
Ooh, that's a really good question. I might have to think on that for a second.
I need to write this
Um,
one down and keep it for later.
I don't know. What is one of the biggest? Sorry about this. This is gonna take me a second
No,
to,
you're
to
good.
give you
Take your time,
that
man.
answer. Um, Biggest challenges as a filmmaker.
Obviously, it's not getting people. You seem to be able to get people,
Definitely
man.
not
Like you
people.
yeah.
Um, Ooh, that's a really good question, Mr. Brian. um, Biggest challenges. I think it's hard for me to sort of give an answer to that so fast, is because I don't. That's something I don't like to focus on specifically. Um, and I don't know if that's the right way to do things. Just trying to like play into the strengths of what I have going on. I think maybe a work-life balance is
Mm,
probably uh, one of the biggest things for me, because you can have a good month of shooting all these projects, but now it's time to edit. But you also need to
right.
continue to book things, and I have a beautiful wife who requires me to be at home as well. So
Yeah, yeah.
uh, that's one big challenge for sure. That work-life balance,
Do
because
y'all have kids?
no, not yet. We haven't
Okay.
tossed them into the mix just yet.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's one of those things. I think family in general, whether it's you and your wife or your wife and kids, that's always I think a challenge for this world today, probably in all kinds of industries, but it seems especially in the creative space, because I mean now, I mean I'm sitting here with my laptop. You and I could be having this conversation. I could be anywhere in the world, really,
Yeah,
and that's a great thing. That's a powerful tool to be
yeah,
able to take as powerful of a computer as I have here with me anywhere. But it's also horrible because my work I can take it anywhere. You know,
yeah. That's
there's
true.
nowhere that I can get away from it if I don't force myself to.
Yeah,
So work life balance is always a tough thing, I think, for people to
for
strike.
for sure, absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing for me personally. Because when it comes to the actual like filming process or editing process, you could just sort of adapt to a multitude of situations. And I feel like that's a skill that a lot of people have. Um, and you can just use what you have to do what you need. So that's definitely my biggest challenge. And I think second in line is just like to stop buying so much crap. You know, that's the
Now,
second in line.
now you're getting personal,
I
man.
know,
Now you're
man.
getting
Just
personal.
really deep down, man. But yeah, just like gear acquisition is a big one for sure. No matter how many times I like tell myself I don't need this thing, and then I'll reconvince myself a little bit later that's like I kind of need this maybe. But
Now,
that's
hey, that's one of those things I think I think certain people, and I'm definitely one of those people that I love the gear. I love to know more about the gear. I love to know what's the newest gear that's coming out, whether it's a camera, whether it's lens, whether it's a light, whether it's a microphone. I mean, there's just it's always something. And the social media world we live in, it's incredible. I'm thankful for the YouTubers that I learned a
Yeah.
ton from, but every single one of them is a salesman at the same time.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
it's like yes, I learned so much from you, and yes, I need that camera that you're shooting that on, and the mic, and the light, and the wall, the wooden slat wall that you've got behind
The
you. I need all of that. I even
yeah.
went and bought this plant because some YouTuber told me to. So
Hey, that's fair, man. That's fair.
yeah.
And I also think, oh shoot, I lost my train of thought there.
I'm sorry.
No, it's
I
fine.
distracted you with the plant.
No, no, no. Um, Another one of those. Oh, that's what it was. Sort of talking to new clients it was more so a big struggle for me for sure. Because like I said, I struggle with that imposter syndrome every now and then. Um, but I will say I've gotten better at it. But every now and then, that's kind of a speed bump for me. Like, how do I approach this client? But I feel like the best lesson that I gave myself there is just to be confident and just kind of know that you can do your job, like essentially.
Yeah.
That's I think that's where that challenge and that struggle came from for me, was just a little bit of a lack of confidence in my abilities to get the job done. But my wife has been like the best like pep talker that I could ever want. She definitely doesn't. Uh, she doesn't allow me to do that these days. Like, question myself as to what I can do and what I can deliver for a client, because it's never been an issue. It's just something that I put in my head to say, hey, maybe you're out of your league here, Marcus. I don't know. But that's something that I struggle with every now and then still, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I think one thing that I have found, I've definitely got my limitations, but the Birmingham creative community does not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I can. There are things that I'm not able to do, but I know somebody that can.
Yeah, for sure.
And sometimes I think whenever I get opportunities to do certain type of work, I think you're not only as strong as you are, you're as strong as the team you can build,
Yeah.
and sometimes whether it's a short film or whether it's a documentary or whether it's a corporate job, like we have a team of people in the Birmingham community. As you know,
Yeah,
you've worked
for
with
sure.
so many of these people
Yeah.
that are super talented and capable. So
Yeah, for sure. Totally agree,
yeah,
man. As of late, I've been able to start hiring people throughout the community to come on some gigs with me, and man, it's the best thing in the world to actually have like a helping hand on set for
yeah,
sure. And and I don't want that to sound like I haven't had the opportunity or people who want to reach out and work with me. It's just I feel like now I'm at a point where I'm more confident and sort of going after a slightly bigger budget so that I can get someone to run sound or to be a B cam operator or whatever the case may be. And it's like the best decision that you can make is to like start building or just build a team in general, for sure.
yeah. I
For
agree.
sure.
All
Is
right,
my
so
camera
tell
doing
me
that moving? I don't know why
it.
my camera I don't know why it's doing that. I
Hey,
don't know how to turn that
I
off.
can't judge on anything. My camera does all this kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that's the iPad. The iPad has that camera that's supposed to like track you as you move around.
I
You
don't
don't need
like
a
it.
B cam
It's
operator.
weird.
You got a B cam operator built into your iPad, man. It does. Sometimes though, I've noticed it. Like you're just sitting there, and it's
Yeah,
like the
I'm
whole
like,
time
what's
like
happening right
pulsing.
now?
I think it works. It's like a slider built into your iPad, man.
Yeah, it's
So
weird, man.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
weird.
It's adding. It's adding to the horror of this film right now. We're shooting. All right. So tell me what's next for you. What I mean, I know obviously you've got some short films. You said that you're currently sort of, I guess, finalizing.
Yeah.
But what's in the future? What are goals that you have and aspirations that you have beyond where you're at right now?
The next goal for me, the next step for me is to do my first feature film. Uh, I don't want to write it, but I want to shoot a feature film. I don't consider myself to be a strong writer. I don't prefer to write. It's just more so just me creating opportunities for myself to shoot something. So the next step for me is definitely to start doing feature films, and I feel like next year will be that time where I feel like I can comfortably just get out there and just knock it out. I feel like I ran out of excuses at this point, like, oh, I want to try this new lighting technique before I do my first thing or whatever. I don't have any more excuses at this point. But ultimately, that's something that I want to tackle in my first feature film for
Yeah.
sure.
I've talked with Max Tatum. He
Hmm.
says he's got a feature film that he's wanting to get out. Brody Burgess, he's got a feature film that he's wanting to get out. It
Nice.
seems like right now the Birmingham area, like it's just at that cusp,
Hmm.
ready to get those features made and produced. I think at this point it's just a matter of a little bit of what we were talking about, just building that team
For sure.
that's going to be able to put it together. Not to mention probably finding the budget for it. I think
Yeah.
all of these things, it's features. Just I think the expense, the time that it takes, making sure that you're not just simply taking advantage of a crew that
Yeah.
you're, especially for, it's one thing to ask people to help out with a short film
Yeah.
that, maybe is a day or two, or even a weekend, but
Yeah.
it's another thing to ask people to say, hey, give me a month of your
Give me a
time.
month of your time. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
But I look forward to that stuff happening soon in the Birmingham area, definitely.
Yeah, man. I'm excited. I haven't been in the scene super long. It wasn't until Sidewalk 2 years ago is when I met Kristen Dober.
Yeah.
After my short played, and she introduced herself, and it's like, "Sir, we gotta have coffee. We gotta talk." And she's introduced me to a multitude of people, and sort of Sidewalk sort of uh, just sort of kick started my kind of introduction to the Birmingham film scene. And there's still so many people I have not met uh, in the film scene that I would love to. But I was really surprised at how big the scene is here in general, and I really hope that it just continues to grow for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that's a big thing. It kind of makes me wish I got started earlier doing this filming stuff. But I see a lot of like young people kind of fresh out of college or even in high school here
Hmm.
that are just trying to jump into the film world, and I couldn't be happier to see that. Couldn't be
Yeah,
happier.
it has blown my mind because whenever I first got started with the podcast, I thought, okay, I know a few people. I'll talk to them, and they'll lead me on to some other people, and probably, after 6 or 7 months, I'll probably be exhausted, and with everything, and then I don't know, we'll start over from there maybe.
Yeah.
And it seems like the more people I meet, the more stories I hear, the more it connects to more stories and more individuals.
Yeah.
And it's just ever growing. And back to Kristen Dober, I mean, it's so incredible to have people. You said young people that are just getting started in this or that are doing a lot in this scene, but then also we got people like Kristen Dober who supports the community, not
Yes.
just simply talking about it, literally putting like dollars on the table,
Yes.
lots of dollars on the table in some
Yeah.
cases to
She.
make things happen.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. The Birmingham space is just incredible right now in creative communities in general. I mean, graphic designers, there's so many of them that are killing it out there.
Yeah.
3D animation is a big thing that I've seen. I've been able to talk with two different people that focus on that in the Birmingham area. It's been really cool.
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And I hope you continue to do the creator. Uh, what exactly is the event name again?
Creating creators. You talking about the
Creating
meetup or the
creators. Yes, the
podcast or?
meetup. The meetup.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really cool. I'm really excited for the next one. I see you're partnered with Stellar Cine on
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah,
Uh,
Burvell's a great guy.
Great guy,
He
man.
seems super nice. I actually haven't met him in person yet.
Oh
He was on
man.
the podcast, but we haven't met in person. So I'm looking forward to
Uh,
seeing him at the meetup.
nice. He'll be a gaffer on a short film that I'm doing tomorrow, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, he's always down to help out. Just the perfect type of person to have on set with you is Breville for sure. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he seems incredible,
Yeah,
and is definitely doing a lot. I mean, I see him constantly on social media right now on sets all over.
yeah.
Um, so again a great community that we have here, and you're definitely part of that. I appreciate
I
you
appreciate it.
jumping on today, man. All right,
Of
so
course.
this is sort of the final question I always wrap up with: who inspires you? So this can be people that you look at and always have looked at for inspiration. It could be people that you work alongside that sort of pushes you further than you ever thought you could go. Anything along those lines. Who inspires you?
Oh, that's a really good question. Oh man. Uh I'm trying to think of a really good answer here. I gotta go through the Rolodex of people here. Who inspires me? Um Sorry, it's gonna take me a
You're
second to
good,
give
man.
you a good
Take your
answer
time.
here. Who inspires me? I'll just start with the the filmmaker who or the director who I sort of wanted to imitate from the beginning of my filmmaker career is David Fincher.
Yeah.
Uh, I can watch a David Fincher film and be instantly motivated to want to shoot something right then and there in that moment. Um, I feel like I talk about him a lot. Every time someone asks me, like, what was your thought process behind this film? Or it's like, well, I want to do what David Fincher does and try to do, try to replicate what he does. Even though it never turns out anything like anything like he's able to do. Um, but as far as like local people, I'm gonna go back to Breville. He's killing it, and I hope he continues to kill it. But it's like, okay, this guy is he's on it. He's a very professional. He's younger than me, like, and he's just doing his thing. Max Tatum is another one of those guys, a very young, super. I feel like Max is a genius, to be completely honest. Max Tatum, if you're
Yeah.
watching, I love you, man. I love you.
His hey,
He's
did his film, the pilot series Haunted Henry. I've talked about that so many times,
yeah.
and I've interviewed him and his episodes. It's coming out soon, but it's not soon enough. I'm ready. If I could, I'd put it out tomorrow. But I got to
So
pay respect
smart.
for everybody that came through. But no, his stuff is really good. I love Haunted Henry. That's
Yeah.
just as a pilot episode. I look forward to seeing more.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's
Likewise.
crazy.
It's
It's weird at times, but it's
yeah.
good.
Super, super duper smart person. Uh, and it's like, how are you this smart, man? Like, you really just started. Like, what's going on right
Yeah,
now?
yeah,
Um, but it's a plenty of people out there that I just kind of look at and just kind of makes me happy that I'm a filmmaker, to be completely honest. But I feel like that's an endless list of people, to be completely honest here,
yeah, yeah.
for sure.
I get it. Well, man, I really do appreciate you taking the time today to jump on this call with me. I know things are busy. I know it seems like you're doing things constantly. Evidently tomorrow, right? You
Tomorrow, I'm
said this
excited.
is a short film.
It's another short. I'm just getting all these ideas out before Halloween gets here, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun for sure.
It sounds like you're going to be busy editing.
Oh, constantly. That never stops. It's like I finished two projects, and then I think I can just kind of sit back and relax, and then I realized that I just shot something yesterday. Got to get that out the way now, So
Yeah,
it's constant editing, constant, but it's okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, seriously, Marcus, it was really great to talk with you today. I appreciate the work you're doing, even though it scares the crap out of me at times. Props
It's
on
okay.
just the look you're able to achieve as well as the stories you're telling, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate what you're doing. This is huge, actually. Like, I don't. It kind of surprises me that no one's done this before. But I'm really happy that you're doing it. I feel like you're talking to all the right people, and there's plenty more people for you to talk to, of course. Um, so just keep it up, man. Just keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
brother.
appreciate it, man.